by Jackie Miller. The first question is, what is argument? And we need to teach kids what it means to argue, and we need to teach kids how to argue effectively. And I think we've been talking about that like the whole time, right? And I want to take this opportunity to kind of say that, teaching kids to argue and teaching them to argue effectively might mean that your son walks through the cafeteria and has a silent protest and throws away his lunch. So expect that you're going to have some kids who are arguing effectively with you, and that's good because we're teaching that. But it is a double-edged sword where we want them to engage in these discussions and think deeper and be members of society that contribute and question, but then they will also be members of society that are contributing and questioning us and everyone. So I live in a military community in Mountain Home, which, in the military, it's not a secret that you don't question authority, you do what you're told. And so some parents have a hard time with some of this. And my husband, who's a math teacher, he's the only trig calculus teacher in Mountain Home. There's a blog in the Mountain Home News about him one day, and he was reading political results, and in there it said that the pre-calculus math teacher doesn't know anything. All he does is ask questions and makes the students do work to figure it out. And he was like, yeah, there you go. So parents will question, and then when there's a shift in all ways, in all our thinking. So just kind of keep those in the back of your mind because we have to deal with it. Back to my son who might be questioning in that way, there's always going back and coaching with that. But when I have students who are doing that, is it fair to then say, no, but you can't question me? And so we have to teach them and engage them so that they're learning how to argue effectively and to talk to people with that, right? So a good way to do that, well, let me talk about this one handout you have that says strategies, thank you, and activities. I always do this to the kid that sits in front, so here we go. I'm like using their desk. So the name of the strategy will be in the box, and then the description, so it talks about what it does, the application to your discipline, and we'll stop and have some time for you to write down how can I use this in my classroom. So it's important that you stop and reflect, and man, is that also important with kids. Stop and reflect and get some time for thinking and application. And then there's a little graphic organizer to just help you remember what that is. And again, that was Jackie that put this together, so I think she's pretty incredible. So have your class develop their own discussion norms through a collaborative discussion, and write these on an anchor chart to be displayed in your room. And we're working on some anchor charts of our own up here. So we've got instructional strategies that we've been collecting. We have the principles that we would like added to the tune article. Over here we have the 5 kinds of composing. So whenever you have had discussions, you made that anchor chart so kids are going back and looking at it. And all the better if you've made it, or a kid in class has made it, or they each go up and sign something next to it, that ownership, and then it's there for them to see. Reflecting back makes a really big difference. So I think that having the discussions about what is going to go on and how that's going to work, and when that you have discussion guidelines, I have it on my slide actually. Wait, let me get that one. The third thing is giving students discussion stems to help them effectively state opinions, provide justification, disagree, agree, and change the topic. So that's on the other side, I think, of your discussion guidelines, your stems. And who was talking to me this morning about how we're developing stems? Where'd she go?
Sentence starters.
Yes, thank you. Right, the sentence starters. And you actually wanted those exact one you said this morning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So these are actually, this is from Jackie's classroom, and you can tell because it definitely has a 4th grade voice to it. Being respectful to others and listen to what they say. To make a good discussion, listen and offer your ideas without blurting out. So they had a discussion saying what makes a good discussion, and the kids are brainstorming. Now when I do this in 9th grade, because I had like 6 classes, a lot of times I'll brainstorm all those ideas, and then we'll look for patterns, and we'll identify the patterns throughout all the classes, and I'll go back and report that to them. So that's the way you can do it if you have multiple classes. If you have one class, imagine how much ownership you get in that when the kids have actually made the rules that you're working from. And you're in there, you can keep those rules out and make sure that this is something important to me. So I think that this is a good way to get guidelines. So this is what you need to do in the beginning, is make sure you've got some guidelines so you're all working together on that. So I like her little thing at the end, on task talk. No ADD, which means no addiction to craziness, No ding-dongs or doofuses, and no dumb talk. So that is definitely from her classroom.
Yes.
Like you would probably not, take that into another classroom. I'm going to use these discussion guidelines because she's got, information and background behind that. I bet there are people, no dumb talk. What does that mean? And it could actually be kind of offensive for people, right? So you know that works in that classroom for specific reasons. So the discussion stems, that you also have a copy of that. But I use these. Kylie Beers has a great discussion stems on Say Something, the greeting, so that, and I love, there's this boy a couple years ago, he had that in front of him and he was like, in my opinion, he's 14 years old reading the discussion stem, but really to have a place to start probably helps everybody. So these are great ways to teach kids how to make it an expression of their own opinion. If you want someone to provide evidence for his or her opinion, you can say, what makes you say so? And then the so what, I like how it says, in a respectful tone. So, you can talk about everything that goes into that. If you want to agree, say, and then these are set up so it's asking for data that's helping support what they agree about. So, I agree with, because. I like it when, said, I thought it was really a good comment because. All right? So I'm setting those up ahead of time is important. And then the first thing we're going to do is an argument opinionnaire, which we actually did an opinionnaire, was that yesterday? So this one is set up so you can give your opinion, and then what this statement is, and I like this piece, and having specific boxes so that kids can see, to take the time to answer that and to think about it. I think that makes a big difference. So with different age levels, you want to be more specific, and then maybe have some expectations as they grow, or expectations throughout the year. Because your hope is that they carry it from one year to the next, but there's a lot of growth within the year. So justification, what makes you say so? So if you guys, on your opinionnaire, would write down, an argument often includes people yelling at each other. Do you agree with that or disagree? Do you strongly agree or strongly disagree? So put yourself, again, like I said yesterday, put yourself in one camp or the other. And if you can feel at one end or the other more extreme, make sure you put that in there. And then go ahead and write on the side what makes you say so. How are you feeling about answering some of these questions now? Do you feel more informed? Yes. You're coming from a different place? It's nice to revisit something like this, right? I was reading through it thinking, we've had some really significant discussions around a lot of these points, which really points out that it's good to take your opinionnaires and give them again to the kids. Like with To Kill a Mockingbird, I usually save mine, and at the end we pull it out again and to discuss, where are you on this now? Have you changed? So that wasn't really my intention in showing you this, but it really makes a big difference to see where you are, right? Mm-hmm.
Do you ever do the continuum with the dots where they would start off with strongly disagree, in the beginning to see where the dots cluster and then
like you can have a poster, and at the beginning everyone comes up and puts dots on the poster, and then after your course of study or during the course of study they can put the dots on the poster. Maybe they agree strongly and disagree, and so they can see where they're moving, and sometimes they go different directions. Sometimes you can say I understand, don't understand, and so you can see them understanding more, but you can also see them maybe not understanding as much. So that's a good way to check for understanding. So there's some evaluation you can do with it also. So one thing I would like you guys to do, you saw yesterday when I had you do a stand-in vote, so you can see where people are on those issues. And there's another one called Four Corners. So you've probably heard of Four Corners. A lot of people haven't used it. And I actually have some posters up. There's strongly agree and here's strongly disagree. So those are going to be polar opposites. And then on that side there is agree, and over here is disagree. Okay, so when we get to these, I will let you know where to stand. So this is another one that gets kids up out of their seats and moving and showing their opinions. So we're going to go through that. It'll just take us a second. And I'm just making sure there's directions in case you get lost in Four Corners. Okay, but we're good. And so let's just pick one that you want to work with. Is there one you want to see? My kids usually have opinions on this. one that I want to see. Okay, arguments can be silent. Let's see what you think. Please move to strongly agree, strongly disagree, or agree or disagree.
Where's the grant?
Right there. So yeah, I definitely see, like kids may not have answered that one, or maybe they had answered it, they decided to go with their friends. And I don't mess around with that too much, because pretty soon when they start, deciding their opinions matter, and then they want their opinions to matter, they start going to different places. Sometimes I have a kid who just always wants to be where everyone else is not. So, there's those little variables that work in there. So now turn to the people that are around you. So if you're in strongly agree, we've got disagree, and we've got strongly disagree. Turn to the people around you and talk about why you are where you are. Okay, so we've done a few strategies. If you guys will look at your strategy sheet, the one with the nice graphics on it and the boxes, there's some places for reflection there. So how about if you look at your opinionnaire survey, your four corners, and on the line, fold the line. So those were the three that we did. So take a second right now and go down that column and look at and think about some places where you could use this in your classroom. Or maybe some people that you could give some advice to on where they would love to use this in their classroom. This might be a good one to think about where you could share it.